Even on those tough days when I experience racism every single day, from the Uber, from the cafe, from the person on the street, am I going to stoop to their low and respond and show up in the way that they potentially expect me to be? Or can I be someone who's about change and rising, coming from my higher self?
Welcome back to Rise, Life Stories of Accomplished Individuals. Guys, first of all, I want to thank you guys because you guys are awesome. The YouTube channel for this podcast is growing at a nice clip. I like looking at the YouTube studio analytics and watching it go up. Thank you for your support. I really appreciate it. If you can, if it's not too much trouble, drop a comment. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit the like button. Share with your friends, tell your friends about it, and we'll go from there. I appreciate it. So I want to jump in. Today with my guest. I'm going to go straight into her bio, and then we're getting straight into it. Upon entering her 4th grade class, Raia Carey wasn't simply the new student. She stood out not only as the only person of color, but she was also overweight. Even though she faced bullying, she showed remarkable courage for introducing herself to each classmate and taking the time to learn about them. Little did she know this challenging period was shaping her future self. Raia is now a triple certified life coach, an inspiring motivational speaker, the manager of culture, diversity, and inclusion at Sick Kids Foundation, and she has earned an audience of over 50,000 people on Instagram. She's dedicated to guiding individuals in discovering their self-confidence, regardless of their background or identity. Raia, hi.
Hi.
Okay, so I want to start by saying something.
Yeah.
I love you. And you know I love you. So you and I have known each other now for 5 years.
I love you too.
Thank you. Thank you. I didn't say I love you to hear I love you too back, just so you know, but I appreciate it.
Yep.
But I appreciate it. Thanks for being here. I want to give a little context as to how you and I met. And I'm pretty sure you remember, it wasn't that long ago.
Of course.
We met 5 years ago.
Yep.
And Valeria had just decided she didn't just decide. There's a whole backstory, but Valeria was going to speak, and maybe I'll tell the story later on.
Yes.
It's funny how she did that.
Yeah.
Valeria was speaking at her own meetup in London, UK, and she came to me, and it kind of happened by accident that she was speaking, and she said, I don't know how to speak. I said, what do you mean? You talk all the time. You talk on your, at that time, she was well into her career as a creator, and I said, you talk all the time, and you talk to your audience. She goes, yeah, but that's me talking to one camera. I need to know how to talk to hundreds of people in a room. And I said, well, we need to get you a speaking coach. And she said, you have to get me Raia. And I said, who's Raia? And she said, Raia. And you guys had met.
Yeah.
Where did you guys meet?
Our mutual friend, Paula.
Okay. Yes, I know Paula.
Yeah.
Goldenstein.
Yes, precisely. We were at her kid's birthday party.
Okay.
And Valeria was there.
I thought Valeria met you at one of your talks or at a professional
I
engagement.
think we might have met a little bit after that at one of those, but that was initially how we had met. So that's so nice to hear. I didn't realize that she had actually specifically called me by name.
Well, you must have. She did. I remember specifically, and she may have said Coach Carey.
Okay.
Which you're known by.
That's good.
She may have, but it was over 5 years ago, so at my age, the memory isn't so good.
Same.
Yeah, no, stop.
I'm just behind you.
Yeah, no, you're nowhere near behind me. Nowhere near. Okay, so Valeria wanted you specifically, so you had left, obviously, an impression on her. And I remember we brought you in, and I was told right away to leave.
Yep.
And you guys went at it. And to your credit, Valeria killed that. She nailed it. She did so well.
She did all the work.
Wow,
I was their supporter, but truly, she did the work.
Wow. Listen, you didn't actually, you didn't make it to London, but you did prepare her beforehand. So talk to me about your career. So yeah, I want to jump into your story. You motivate a lot of people right now.
I try my best.
No, well, you do more than try your best. I was reading one of the, I was looking at one of the Instagram posts you made, and you had a slide about your growth, and you talked about 45% growth in your revenues.
Yeah.
As a speaker and as a consultant.
Yeah.
You talked about you grew by over 6,000 subscribers on Instagram, which is huge. So yeah, I mean, before we kind of get into what you do now, I really want to understand your life path, and I want to kind of go back. I mean, I started this by talking about your fourth grade experience. Take me back a little before that. Where are you from?
Yeah. So both my parents live in Toronto, but my dad's background is Bermudian, my mom's sort of French Canadian. Black history. Parents came here on the Underground Railroad, ancestors.
Well, see, you know what? They just come here and they talk about these things so casually. Like that's a big deal. So they came here on the Underground Railroad from the United States.
That's right, on my mom's side, yeah.
So look, I'm a little bit familiar with the history, but take me through that, because that's an interesting piece of history that you're directly a part of. Like if you wanted to talk about World War II and surviving the Holocaust, I could tell you my mom's story.
Right.
Because she survived the Holocaust. But I'd like to hear your mom's story of the Underground Railroad into Canada.
Yeah, I guess it's a question I don't often get asked, so thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know too much about how all my ancestors got here, but, my mom's fifth generation Canadian, and her parents, fought really hard to even be able to own a home in Toronto and back in, long time ago. But that path is also what brought my mom's path to being the reason we have Black history recognized in Canada, which ultimately has helped inspire me to, focus on EDI and some of the things that are going on in this world and my role at Sick Kids, as you mentioned in the beginning.
And so you grew up in Toronto, I guess.
Yeah. West End kid.
Okay. And tell me about some of the hardships you went through.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, in grade 4, that was a tricky one. But if we even take it back a little bit further, going to the public school that was just down the street from me, I was the only person of color. And most of the places and spaces I was in, which at the time I didn't recognize that impact. I just knew that I was consistently the kid getting in trouble. And aside from that, I didn't realize that was a problem until eventually my parents had to sit me down and let me know that some people may treat me differently based off the color of my skin. And they said it was important for me to be remembered for who I am and how I treat myself and how I treat others. And I think that was the beginning of me shifting how I look at the world and how I understand how the world looks at me.
I always preface kind of sensitive conversations by saying I don't get political. And it's not a political thing at all. So I want to make sure that you understand, like, this isn't a political thing, but you made a statement to me a couple of months ago when you were passing through Miami.
I remember I know exactly what they
We were sitting at Vienna on the outdoor patio and we were having lunch, and you said something to me that really shocked me. And you said to me that you experience racism every single day. So like to date, to this day. And the assumption I'm making is that's something that started when you were a kid, because your parents had to have this talk with you.
Exactly.
So I guess I don't know. I don't really have a question about it. I'm still in shock because it's still so hard for me to believe. But I guess from my vantage point, I guess I wouldn't know.
Sure,
because like me, look, I'm Jewish, but that's not a visible thing.
Right.
So take me through that.
Yeah.
Take me through that, especially how it. I want to understand how the hardship of experiencing something like that on a regular basis, like on a daily basis, how do you, instead of letting that bring you down, how did you then use that to become who you are today?
Yeah, great question. That's so funny that you were thinking about that, because so was I, and thinking about that was a really profound moment for us because we've always had really candid conversations. You've always been such a great support for that. And I remember you're also not that kind of person who's ever shocked. You
not.
Right? But when I said that, you paused for a minute. And I remember feeling, wow, I can feel him feeling that he doesn't like that I experienced that because he's someone who cares about me.
Yeah.
And so that was a really cool moment. So thank you for that. But you're right. For all good reason, no one would be shocked if I was angry and moved through the world with anger and wanting to treat people the way they treated me. But like I said, in that early age, I learned that you can't fight fire with fire. I really had this idea of, can I fight fire with water and sort of put it out? So even on those tough days when I experienced racism every single day, from the Uber, from the cafe, from the person on the street, am I going to stoop to their low and respond to how they are and show up in the way that they potentially expect me to be? Or can I be someone who is about change and rising and coming from my higher self and saying, I know that this is how I'm being treated, but if I treat you differently, maybe you will treat the next person who looks like me or identifies like me differently. And for me, that is the bigger picture. That is the overall goal. That is making it not about me, but about every single other young person or anyone else who might experience discrimination or racism in their life.
I guess my question is how, because that's a hard thing to do. Like,
yeah, it is hard. You're right.
To have that kind of attitude, that kind of, I would say almost like enlightenment, to be able to approach that kind of overarching.
Yeah, I have a good story to explain that to you.
Yeah, but like the overarching problem, it's not of like you specifically experiencing racism, but like humanity as a whole. Like for you to do your part and approach the world that way, in the way that you just described, that's not like, it's very atypical.
For sure. Yeah.
So where did that approach come from? And you started doing this at an early age.
I did.
So how?
So two things. One, obviously how my parents raised me, so that's really great. But I think I just had really profound moments of examples of how my parents moved through it, because obviously I saw them experiencing racism and discrimination as well. My parents were, both doctors, and we lived in a predominantly white neighborhood, wealthy neighborhood. So I was already the only person of color, and I already stood out there. But I'll never forget this time. In grade 10, we used to often go out for family dinner like every Friday night. And we'd go far, and my dad didn't like to park his car. So I said, I found a restaurant in our neighborhood. Let's go there. And we went, and dinner was great, and it came time to paying the bill. This is going to age us a little bit. But remember when they would have to take your card and
when you say us, I hope you're not including me in that.
Oh, yeah.
Stop it. I'm a lot older than you. Stop it. Stop.
Okay, fine. You're right. I'm super young.
No, but you are.
37. Okay. No problem.
I'm literally 14 years older than you.
Okay.
Okay, but continue the story.
Okay, yeah. So we go to the restaurant. Dinner is great. We have an incredible time, and came time to paying the bill. And she brought the bill. My dad looked it over.
She, like the server?
The server, yeah.
Yeah.
He looked it over, put down his Visa. She left and came back. Now, when she came back, her entire demeanor changed. Everything about her had shifted. I've always been a person who notices energy. And she said, sorry, your card declined. Maybe you have another card. And my dad pauses. He's a very logical guy. And he said, no, this card should be good. Why don't you try it again? She left and came back. And again, everything has changed. And she said, sorry, your card declined. Maybe there's someone who can call, who can help you. And my dad paused and he said, well, why don't I come with you and see what's happening, and we'll assess from there. And what my dad saw was that the machine never once read decline. It said error. Mm-hmm. And I think all of us can understand that error could mean a number of things, like faulty access to the internet, et cetera, right? But because
declined is a very different message than error.
Right.
Yeah.
So based off her preconceived notions, she saw a black man and the machine not working, and she equated it to, he can't afford this. And so my dad mentioned that. He paid the bill. He over-tipped her and left, didn't say another word. I'm only in grade 10. So this is me trying to manage all these complex emotions, and the only thing that I have access to in that moment is anger. I'm thinking, why would you tip her? Why are we paying the bill? Let's go back in there. And my dad just had to pause me, and very calmly he said, and this is probably the biggest lesson of why I started to show up this way, as he said, if I had responded like that, I would have become exactly what she expected me to be. And it wouldn't have been that, the story wouldn't have been that we were potentially victims of racism. The story would have been that a black family left the restaurant without paying the bill. And that would have been the story that would follow you and your siblings around for the rest of your life. He said sometimes you were going to have to come from your higher self to prove them wrong.
The observation I want to make is that your father, as a cultured and educated man, I mean, he's a doctor. Mm-hmm. That was the only response he could do. And I'm saying it to his credit.
For sure.
I'm not saying it like...
He could have responded very differently, but he knew.
No, when I say he couldn't, I mean he wouldn't.
Right.
Because being of the stature that he is, he wouldn't have lowered himself to make any kind of statement like that.
Even when it hurt, even when it was difficult, you still show up as your best, because that is how we're going to change the world and shift people's preconceived notions.
I don't want to look, I can't speak for your father. I can't speak for you. But in this case, I think, yes, I see how it would anger you. Mm-hmm. I have a feeling, and I've never met your dad, but I have a feeling that he's just a confident person, and he's confident in himself.
He is. So
I'm thinking, and maybe I'm extrapolating, but I feel that it's in his confidence and his self-assuredness. I don't know if that's a word.
Yeah, it is.
that I think it came from there. So you witnessing that,
Yeah.
and I've actually heard you tell that story. I heard you tell that story on your social media, and coming out of that situation, do you feel that was like a turning point for you, where then you approached situations in your life,
Yes,
in the way that you do?
yep, every time, even when it hurts, even when I'm angry, even when I'm upset, I still always stay rooted in how am I going to show up. And that has allowed me to actually manage and move through so many not great situations and handle them so well. Going to luxurious hotels, I ask for a table, they say no. Are you a guest here? And then my friend who's not a person of color says the exact same thing 2 minutes later and gets a table in 1 second.
I'm sorry, I'm still shocked. I am, and I believe you, of course.
No, I know.
But I'm shocked because like you see stuff like this, like in the movies and stuff like this.
Yeah.
But to know now firsthand that it's still happening in the world.
But as you said, like I
unsettling.
do also take really good care of myself. I'm consistently meditating. You might find, anytime we've hung out, if I experience something like that 9 out of 10 times, I will meditate actively while I'm just, even in my Uber here, I was meditating because I could feel him staring at me. I'm on my computer, I'm on my phone, and I'm like, yeah, this is where I'm going, to this location.
Really?
Yeah. But being able to honor myself, take care of myself, like you said, having that confidence like my dad, that helps me never step out of character and who I want to be and continue to show up as. So I think it's something everyone can access in terms of managing your emotions so that you do show up in however you want to.
You raise a really good point, because it's not, not only does it better overall not only is it better overall for society and humanity to take the approach that you take, but it's also much better for you as an individual.
Less energy.
Well, the alternative is going through life like angry and upset.
And then that's what I'm omitting and that's what I'm attracting.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like I attract magic. Magic happens everywhere I go.
Really? How do you mean?
For example, I might say, I'm going to go to that restaurant and my favorite table is going to be available. And I walk in and there's my table. Literally. Or it'd be really cool to see this person. I don't know what their schedule is like. And then I walk in the lobby and there they are. Like, these things happen to me all the time. Or, hey, we actually can't do this anymore, but you're the last person. So we'll, like all the time. So I have this deep belief that it's part of my aura and my energy and how I'm emitting. Like energy does attract like energy.
So where did you end up? So you went up, you were saying you went to school and you lived in this affluent neighborhood. What happened after that? Tell me more of you. I want to know more of your story.
Yeah. So then grade 4, as you said, and then I switched schools probably about 5 more times from grade 4 to grade 10.
Why are you switching schools so much?
Variety of reasons. Grade 3, the school ended at grade 3.
Oh, okay.
Then grade 4, I wasn't happy there. I was getting bullied. Grade 5 and 6, it ended in grade 6. It was in elementary school. Grade 7, 8, 9, I didn't like it there. I got asked not to leave. I was suspended twice.
Okay.
For being chatty. And I will always stand up for people, no matter what, even in that setting. So my school labeled me as combative.
Really?
Yep. So I'd say, well, that's not fair. Or, hey, you didn't say that yesterday. Like, I'm not just going to be okay with things that are not okay. So I've always will use my voice as my parents taught me to. Then I finished high school 10, 11, 12. So many different schools for a variety of different reasons. Then I moved to Montreal. I went to Concordia.
Okay. What did you study?
Psychology.
Okay.
Shocker.
Yeah.
Love understanding why people do the things they do and just cognitively.
No, I still don't understand why they help people.
Right. Right. I'm still learning, but it helped me understand myself and others, which then really set the foundation for coaching. I did events for 10 years, which was great. I think.
Sorry, what do you mean events? What do you mean you did events? What does that mean? What does doing events mean? No, I just did not.
No, fair. I did parties.
You did promotions.
Yeah. I started in Montreal when I was 17.
Okay.
Carried that on in Toronto, and it was great. I had a lot of fun, but I felt so unfulfilled. It kind of felt like I have all this education, and I know I'm destined for more, but here I am twiddling my thumbs. I stopped drinking. I lost over 300 pounds. Everything had shifted so much from 17 to 27.
Yeah, so can we pause?
Yeah.
I want to ask you about losing 300 pounds because you're very nonchalant. Oh, I lost 300 pounds. You didn't lose 30 pounds.
I'm just chatting with my friend.
No, I understand.
Chatting with Uncle G.
No, but no, I thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's funny how you refer to me as Uncle G, and you do that often, but then you make reference to us being kind of the same age, but yet I'm Uncle G. So
Hey,
I'm
listen.
just gonna I'm catching you on a contradiction.
Fair.
All right.
Touche.
But sorry, what was
Losing
I
weight.
had stopped you at losing 300 pounds. Yeah, you're very nonchalant. You know, like I think people who are overweight, and by the way, I was, and I think I still am, I mean, technically overweight. Well, I actually think if you look at the scale and you look at my weight and my height, like I'm actually considered obese.
Yeah, same.
Which that's like a weird scale, right?
Weird.
It's like a
It was created in like the 50s, so.
Yeah. I'm just a short, stocky man. You know.
Short kings live.
Well, I like that.
Right?
Okay, so talk to me about losing 300 pounds. That's
Yeah.
not a small thing. Like that requires a massive amount of intention and discipline. And tell me, first of all, what was, I mean, the trigger to losing the weight is it's obvious to me, but I'd like to hear it from your perspective, and I'd like to understand how you did it.
For sure. My trigger was actually seeing my parents go through a couple of health scares, who were already two people who were pretty healthy. You know, my dad worked out on his lunch break because that was the only time he could block out from in between patients.
Sorry, what type of doctor was he?
Optometrist.
Or is he?
Optometrist.
Okay.
Yeah. And my mom similarly as well. So when they went through that, I thought, oh, if two people who are healthy are going through this, what might this look like for me?
So were they overweight?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, very similar to like what you were saying for yourself.
Well, I wasn't a little bit overweight, but okay.
You know what I mean? The scale,
Sure.
obese, but
Yeah.
they weren't big, but they were big.
Got
it. They both have significantly lost weight since then as well. But at 23, that's when that happened. And at the time, I was over 600 pounds.
Sorry, what?
Yeah, 600.
So hold on. You must have been bedridden.
Nope. I could move just as much as I can move now. And the doctors were all quite shocked, as you can imagine. I was still working out. I was throwing parties. I was the most popular kid in school. But I just also happened to be morbidly obese. Like, that's what they classified me as.
That's a massive health concern.
Oh, yeah. So after my parents went through that at 23, I said, okay, let me go to the doctor. I'd been avoiding it for so long. My whole life, people had told me I was overweight and plus size. So I had a really negative connection to that, just because instead of someone being like, hey, let's help you, it was, hey, this is bad. So imagine being, 10, 12, consistently just hearing that your body is not okay. It was not something I wanted to always talk about.
I want to point something out.
Yeah.
We talked about the racism.
Yeah.
Very negative.
Yeah.
Okay. We're talking about now about this problem with your weight.
Yeah.
Very negative.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, I want to uncover before the end of this discussion.
Mm-hmm.
I want to uncover what is your, like, not so much what is your secret in terms of how to take these typically very negative situations that people do not thrive in, or they rarely turn them around. And I want to understand how. So as you're telling me, maybe in the back of my mind, think about it, because
we're going to get there.
I want this audience to know, because I think that, and I'm sorry for interrupting, being so long-winded, but I think that when I think of you being a motivational speaker, a triple certified coach, those credentials, whichever of those three institutions are that have certified you as a coach, that means far less to me than you actually taking these massively negative situations, turning them around and becoming who you are. So that to me is your credential.
Love it. Okay.
So please continue on the weight loss story.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you for that. That helps me bring it full circle about how I'm going to actually tell your community.
Oh, I want to know.
You want to know.
Yeah.
Inquiring minds, I want to know.
Yes.
So then I'd been avoiding the doctors for so long. At 23, I decided to get a full physical, everything, blood work, etc. And when I got all the work back, the doctors said, we've never seen this before. You are completely healthy except for your BMI.
How old are you?
I was 23. I was 600 pounds. So I didn't have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, nothing.
None of that.
And they're like, this is unheard of.
Yeah.
And so they said, if you want to lose weight, do it now before your body can no longer support you. And he said, if you had come to me in your late 30s at the same weight, etc., I probably would have to put you on medication immediately or something more severe. So I said, okay, let's do it. And from that moment on, I shifted everything. I started eating, smaller meals, 6 meals a day. I started working with a trainer. But most importantly, I started swimming every day. Swimming for me has always been something I love, as you know, for anyone who watches my stories. But I'm weightless in the water. I can move at warp speeds in the pool compared to on the treadmill or elliptical. So because I already liked swimming, I doubled down on that. So I swam every day. And that helped me, lose the first 100 pounds pretty quickly. Then I plateaued, as you can imagine. It's tough to keep that going. So I just kept working. I was really focused on consistency rather than the scale or the number or the size or this or that. I just imagine telling yourself every day, hey, you better lose 100 pounds. So discouraging. So instead, I spoke to myself as I would one of my clients. Can we break that goal down into smaller pieces that are more accessible?
Like daily habits.
That's right.
Yeah.
So daily habits, and then 1 pound. Can we lose 2 pounds, 3 pounds instead of 100 or 300 every day? It was so daunting.
Yeah.
So breaking it down into more digestible pieces helped a lot. And I never gave up. Don't get me wrong. I have good days. I have bad days. There's times where I've plateaued. COVID really just shut me down in terms of the amount of movement I could do. I have a condition where I have a really slow metabolism. So no matter what, I have to do triple the work. But I think that when you piece together the work I've done in studying confidence and how each person can create that within themselves, paired with genuinely the positive aura, because if we break it down on a scientific level, there's catabolic energy and there's anabolic energy. This is how scientists would call it. Catabolic energy destroys, anabolic energy creates. So I deeply feel that because of me consistently having anabolic energy within me, that has supported me in not having those negative health impacts. Because even still to this day, I'm not where I want to be. Right now, I'm probably about 280.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to be under 200.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still fully healthy at 37.
Wow.
So I think the key is to honor yourself, take care of yourself, to genuinely love yourself. And I know it can sound so cliche, but practicing affirmations and reminding myself that I love myself, that I'm worthy, that I'm more than enough, helps me continue to show up at the gym and move through any of those weight obstacles or those negative experiences that, I've had.
Yeah. You just said something, interesting where you have this, the mindset and I feel like you're very good at, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're very good at acknowledging your progress.
Yep.
So I'm very bad at acknowledging my progress.
I'm surprised to hear that. Actually.
Yeah, no, I am. I mean, on the surface, I'm like, I'm good, but I'm always beating myself up for not doing enough. Like today when I went to the gym, I was in a rush to drive, I was running late and I had to get the kids back. So I stopped my cardio 10 minutes early. Right. And I'll carry that negativity with me for like a little bit saying, I didn't do it. And, or maybe like something in business isn't progressing as quickly as I'd like it to. So stuff like that. So what's the secret in your opinion to, we talk about gratitude and appreciation.
For sure.
But if like, it's almost contradicting, meaning if somebody's a type A personality and they're trying to get things accomplished and they're trying to get things done and they put a lot of effort into getting things done. And because they have this type A personality where they expect of themselves that they are going to produce great results in their fitness and their overall health, their relationship with their family, their business, and they don't achieve that. So how do you kind of reconcile being this type A personality and then when you don't achieve whatever your goals to then still be okay and still, how do you do that?
It's tough. I really try to come from the place of celebrating all the wins, even the big or not so big. I don't ever want to call them small, but for me, that has always been to write it down and put it sort of in a journal that's really just for myself, because I would say I'm a little bit type A, but like you, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't necessarily have those spaces.
Sorry, I apologize. Losing 320 pounds isn't a little bit type A. That's a massive, that's not.
No, that's a big one. But I mean,
can't even lose 10 pounds.
Even like the win of going to the gym today.
Yeah.
Right. That's still a win, but it's not a massive one. But it's a win. Right. So you got to.
But it makes you feel good.
Exactly.
That you did it. Yeah.
Right.
I saw in your stories that you went to the gym.
Thank you, because I landed at midnight.
Last night.
Oh yeah.
Good for you.
Thank you. So this morning was a little bit of a struggle, but I'm committed to who I want to be and how I want to show up. So that helps me get there. But the small ones, I feel like for me and you, and correct me if I'm wrong, we don't have as many places to kind of share our wins. we're kind of at this leadership place. So I never want to be like, oh, I did this and I did that. I very much still have this level of, can I come from a place of humility and be humble? But then that's a tricky one too.
I like that topic.
Yeah.
You know, so Valeria and I are always talking about this.
Yeah.
Because, and you're in this exact same boat as, I mean, you're essentially a content creator. We all are, right?
Yeah.
Like every human is actually, whether they're on Instagram or not. We're all creating content every day.
Creating something.
Right. So it's interesting because for you, who you're a public figure and you're in a public forum, you want to be relatable and humble because, and it's not so much because you want to be liked, it's just because that's who you are.
Yes.
And so owning your victories, not only owning them yourself and celebrating them personally with yourself and maybe like your close inner circle, you do have to be able to celebrate them.
Have to. Like even that post you were talking about earlier about how I increased my income.
I bet that was hard for you.
It was.
Yeah.
My team had to push me to post that.
Yeah.
Because I said, take that down. It's not about that. But then my team reminded me, but what if someone is looking up to you to get to where they're going?
I think the way to look at it is maybe look at it as context.
Yeah.
You know what I used to,
yeah.
You know what I do from time to time in my stories? Like, let's say Valeria creates a video and it gets like 1 million views or 5 million views or whatever. I'll repost like her reel or whatever it is. And I'll say, wow, 5 million views in like 3 days or something. And then she'll call me and she goes, what are you doing? Stop it. And I said, the number's public. Anybody can see it. And she goes, yeah, but you don't have to like boast about it. I said, I'm not boasting about it. I'm proud.
Interesting. Because when I see you post that, I'm thinking, I'm so proud. This is amazing that he's sharing this about how anything is possible.
Do you know why? Do you know why you're proud?
Why?
I'm going to tell you why you're proud.
Okay.
I recently had a gentleman on the show. His name is Dan Martell.
I watched that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's great.
So Dan explained it. When a person sees an accomplishment of someone else's, like whether if they make a lot of money or they have a piece of content that goes viral, whatever it may be. If a person feels negative about seeing somebody else's accomplishment and not positive, what that means, if they feel positive, that means they know that they're doing everything that they need to do to succeed.
Yeah.
And if they feel negative about it, they know they're not doing the work.
Yes.
And he said that to me, and that was a moment for me where I was like, damn.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So if I ever have a negative feeling about seeing someone accomplish something, I now take that back right away. I internalize it, and I said, what am I not doing?
Exactly. Or what do I want? I aspire to this. There's a big difference between aspiring versus jealousy or comparison. Yeah. Right? Comparison is so, the thief of joy, as people say.
It is.
It really is. But I always tell my clients, if you've experienced that while you're on social media, the best way to combat that is just give that person love. Comment. So pumped for you.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for you. Even if in that moment you don't exactly feel it, that's going to shift you from comparison to aspiration.
Yeah.
And I love that. So I struggle with that, but I'm trying to tap into that a little bit more because I really recognize, I don't know why I knew, but I didn't sit with it for as long, but I now really am rooted in terms of queer, Black, plus size woman, I am a leader. And so I want to make sure that I'm showing people that anything is possible. So that's where I'm coming from when I want to share a little bit more about my numbers. Because it always didn't resonate for me to be like, I made this much money or this much that. It never resonated for me. But maybe that's useful to somebody else. So I'm working on that. You've always helped me with that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I try. I still think you downplay stuff a lot. I do.
I knew you were.
But I do. But I've told you that before.
I do.
When it comes to your own content, I mean, look, I think people in general need to be their own biggest cheerleaders and supporters.
For sure. But it's that fine line between being humble and sharing. I'm still navigating.
Yeah, and so am I. But if you look at anybody who's in the public eye, if you look at any content creators, I think if you thought about it, you will notice that most content creators who are successful are not, it's not that they're not humble, they're not shy about their successes.
You're not wrong. I agree. Yeah.
You know who's a good example of this? You know who's a good example?
Tell me.
Not one person, but like the type of creators?
Yeah.
Rappers.
You're right. You're right.
You don't have to be as extreme as rappers, but they literally put it in their lyrics. I have this, I have this, I have this. This is how much money I have. This is my watch, my car, everything.
You're right.
It's
But I
funny.
feel like I still can find a way to do it my way because that
I'm
doesn't
not saying-
exactly resonate with me.
Well,
But
no. I'm not suggesting you do that. But
Imagine.
and I don't do that either.
no,
You know,
that would be too much.
So I'm friends with these Russian celebrities.
Yeah.
They're close friends of ours.
Yeah.
I don't see them as much anymore because of we can't go to each other's countries
Right.
anymore. But they once told me that just be successful and continue doing what you do, and you don't have to talk about things like material wins or whatever it is,
Yeah.
but don't hide it.
I
Just
think
don't
that's what I
hide it.
needed to hear.
Because that's classy.
Yeah.
You can wear a nice watch or have a nice car, and you don't have to put it up for people to see, but you also don't have to pull it back.
Okay, that's
Blair
what I
is
need
always
to
doing
hear.
that.
That's what I need to hear. Because this is the materialism, I think, that doesn't resonate for me. But as you said that, I just realized where that was actually coming from for me. Do you want me to share?
Please. You knew I was going to say yes.
Yeah, I know. I was like, damn it, I don't even want to say it out loud because I know you love the real stories.
Yeah.
That's what this is all about. So bringing it back a little bit to kind of my intersectionality, my upbringing, I think I've had this disconnect with sharing the wins because it was so difficult for me to share that my parents and family were well off being a queer Black kid.
Mm-hmm.
So in the...
Sorry, if I may.
Yeah,
just-
please.
When you say a queer Black kid, what age did you understand your sexuality?
Probably by grade 4, 5, 6.
Oh, really? That early?
I didn't know what it was, but I knew what I've seen is that girls like boys, boys like girls, but I'm a girl, I think I like girls.
Okay.
That's the extent that I could understand it at that age.
Okay.
And, at private school, I'm sure I'm the only person of color. Everyone's in the same kind of realm. But then I would hang out with other kids as I grew up and in high school, and, they didn't have the same privileges that I had. So that was really complex because in the spaces where I was in diverse communities, I wanted to hide my privilege. Whereas in the other spaces, I needed to make sure they knew I was at the same level of privilege of them. Even in high school, people would be like, oh, you're the only Black kid. How can you afford to go here?
No, people wouldn't say that to you.
Oh, yeah.
These are people who were your friends?
No.
Could...
No. These are just random people who were in the same, private school job.
Are they raised by wolves? Who asks a question like
But
that?
this was, not to make excuses, but this was 20 years ago.
Doesn't matter.
For sure. But these are the things that were saying to me. So I think that is why that disconnect comes from for me, because I've always been in this space of, do I share my privilege? Do I share? I never would tell people that I went to private school. I would never share that my parents are doctors, But now...
You wouldn't share that. Hold on. You wouldn't share that in some of the other at your private school, you would share that, or you would not.
I would. At private school, yes.
Right,
But
because
in
it's
other
normal,
spaces...
because everybody's parents are doctors and lawyers.
Yeah.
Got it.
Exactly. Kids are getting dropped off by their nannies in Porsches,
Sure.
So,
Really?
oh, yeah.
So, okay, just for the record, my nanny's not driving my Porsche, but okay.
Oh, yeah, that was happening. So, but now I'm anchored in, my parents worked so hard to be able to provide for my siblings and I so that we could have the best access to education and opportunities. And now I'm bringing that full circle so that all of their sacrifices aren't in vain. So I feel really proud of that. So, wow, I'm so happy we unpacked this together. Give me a little bit of goosebumps.
Yeah, no, I love it. You're now in your mid-20s.
Mhm.
You've lost the weight.
Yep.
I mean, you must be feeling good about that.
Oh, yeah.
You've overcome that.
Mm-hmm.
You still haven't told me what it is and how it is that you go from these very difficult situations into not just getting over them, but thriving.
Yep.
And I really want you to make a statement at the end of this talk. I'm really putting it to you. You got to do this, Raia. You got to do it.
Yeah.
But so now you're in your kind of mid-20s. You are trying to understand, I guess, what to do professionally.
Absolutely, yeah. Big time.
Right? You've lost the weight. You've gotten through that milestone.
Mhm.
Where are you at now?
So now I'm at this interesting crossroad of university, moving home, Montreal, Toronto. I moved home, continued to do events, and really sitting with, what do I want my life to look like? Because waking up at 2 p.m. and throwing parties is not sustainable for forever, at least for someone like me. So I really had to get back to the drawing board and think about, what are my core values, which is not something we really talk about in our 20s. And when I did that, I realized that I was so out of alignment. For example, if I were to say my top value is family, but I never see my family, obviously that's a value disconnect. And that's like an internal battle that you're not necessarily fully conscious of.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big shift for me. And I would say the two things that have helped me the most is emotional regulation and all the things I've done to kind of build my confidence, which is truly what I've built my career off of. So what I mean by emotional regulation is understanding the process of how to move through emotion. I feel like people say that a lot without explaining what it means. So
I'd love to know how to do it.
Perfect. Well, I describe it as moving through emotion means understanding why it's showing up, where it's coming from, and then allowing yourself the space to kind of sit with that, then coming up with some tools of how you can do things differently. So if you're sad and you're triggered, your hands are maybe clammy, your heart rate's elevated, you're feeling off, I would take 3 deep breaths. I meditate all the time, and I know that not everyone does, but even just 3 intentional deep breaths can remind the nervous system that you're okay and immediately start to calm you. So I learned how to move through emotion at a really early age, being, a middle child to an overachiever, my older sister, and then my younger brother, the golden child, and having a lot of complex emotions in terms of my identity. Do I want, being a woman, being queer, all these things that are coming up that was never a place for me to talk about. So the amount of times that I've had to emotionally regulate myself in tough situations, like some of the ones we've talked to, whether that was at school or outside of school, has helped me build my roster of my toolbox to help me in any time. So that would, to me, every single person has a toolbox or whatever resonates for you that you want to call it, that needs to be accessible to you even in those tough moments. Because when we have a tough moment, most of the time we step out of our rational mind because we are now emotional. So we're reacting.
Yeah.
But if you make those tools so embedded within you, you can access them no matter what. So for me, that has been the number one way that I'm able to move through tough situations is by having my tools accessible. Like on my way here, instead of getting mad or frustrated, I sit in the Uber and meditate. So meditate might not be what works for everybody, but everyone needs to take time to think about what works best for me.
How do they find it?
Each person's different, but I do like to always encourage people to start with asking themselves these 4 questions. My favorite questions, I've could have changed it over the years, but it's just so simple and accessible that it's still really beneficial. So I always say, do this for a couple of nights a week, but actually write it down. Not on your phone, not over, but actually write it down. Pen to paper, pencil to paper, whatever works best. And respond to these a couple nights before bed for a week or 2. And the questions are, what worked well for me today? What didn't work well for me? What drained me? And what fueled me?
Can you say them again, please?
Yep. What worked well for me today? What didn't work well for me? What drained me? And what fueled me? And the reason why those 4 questions are so powerful is because after 2 weeks, you begin to see what patterns are showing up for you. Each person has a pattern. We all have them. And so when you see, every time I do this, it doesn't make me feel good, then that's a clue for you to maybe not do that as much. Or every time I do this, I feel drained. Do that less. And you see how that goes for the next few weeks. Or on the flip side, every time I have a conversation with someone I care about, I feel fueled. That's a signal to embed more of that and then see how you feel. We often don't take our own self-inventory. And after the age of, maybe 18, it is no one else's job to be responsible for your own self-development.
Right.
And if we just leave things up to chance, it's not going to happen. And our subconscious will always fill in the blank with something negative. So it's up to us to make sure that the fill in the blank is with something that aligns with who we are.
It's work. I mean, it's a lot of...
It takes work every single day.
Proactive work.
I get asked every day, how are you so confident? How are you so happy? How are you so positive? I work at it every single day. Full circle. Everybody needs to create their toolbox.
Yes.
So that when you go into your unconscious mind, it's still there.
Right. But is that part of the coaching that you do? Like, this is something that you do?
Yes. So my niche is helping people tap into their hidden confidence. That's always been kind of my, elevator pitch, if you will. But I realize it's the foundation of so much that we do. For my first 5 years of coaching, I didn't have a niche. So I said, let me just see what happens. And every single person that worked with me or my clients, if I boiled it all down, everybody wanted to work on their confidence. But it started out as, I want a better job, or I want to be able to communicate better. Surface.
Well, I don't think they knew that they wanted to work on
They
their
didn't.
confidence.
They didn't.
But you were saying that I get it. You're saying that the kind of root that they need to fix, the foundation that needs to be optimized
Yes.
and or repaired is confidence.
Yes.
So talk to me about your opinion on imposter syndrome.
Oh, I love this topic. I have mixed emotions, mostly because I don't like the name. I think that immediately people have such a negative connotation to it that it embeds fear. Imposter syndrome. It's not a syndrome. It's an experience that anybody who has a functioning brain could experience. Very simple. Because it's like literally negative self-talk.
Yeah.
But what makes it different than just regular negative self-talk is that it's on a deeper level, it's more subconscious, and it then starts to hinder you in different areas of your life. Up until about the 1950s, it had only been studied as a blanket term until this incredible psychologist named Dr. Valerie Young broke it down into 5 categories, which was huge because it obviously gave more people a way to relate to it and move through it. So, for example, one of them is called the superhuman. So these are the people who feel their value is only there if they do everything on their own. But you can imagine the negative side of that. They don't ask for help.
How can you do everything?
That's right. So I think it's important for people to understand how it may show up, but to also remind them that it's something that every person experiences, myself included. I have moments of imposter syndrome where I procrastinate. That's how I respond to it. When I get a big contract with a big client, instead of responding right away, I'll respond in 2 weeks. And it's terrible.
Yeah.
Luckily I have a team, so they ensure that that doesn't happen. But my immediate response is, oh my gosh, this is happening. And it's everything I've worked toward and it's everything I deserve. But there's still that moment of, who am I? But then my tools remind me, this is who I am.
Yeah.
So that's actually my number one tool for how people can move through imposter syndrome. I call it, where are the receipts? So if your imposter syndrome is saying, you can't do this, you're not qualified, your receipts are, oh yeah, I did it this time, that time, that time, that time. And all of a sudden, it's gone because our subconscious is never prepared with rebuttals. It's an output function, so it can never really respond. If you challenge your subconscious, it kind of subsides. Most people don't recognize that.
Most people accept that voice in their mind.
That's right. They don't challenge it.
As an authority. They don't challenge it.
Right. Exactly. So I think we're here to remind people to challenge it.
You know what kind of confidence I'd like to have?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make a very obscure reference.
Wait, are you trying to say that you're not confident?
I don't think any of us really are. I think we all have
I'm confident.
like 100%.
95?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, and that's a good score. That's like a good self score. But do you know where confidence so if let's say as you go through life,
mm-hmm.
And you have like a chart, or not a chart, a graph, and confidence with age, and it goes up with age because as you gain experience and you start believing in yourself, and your experience shows that you're actually able to accomplish things,
mm-hmm.
that confidence keeps creeping up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you, let's say, find your partner and you get married, like in my case,
mm-hmm.
confidence continues to go up, right?
Yep.
Because I actually I got a really awesome wife, so it's like,
fair.
I must be doing something right.
That's very true.
So my confidence continued to go up. But where confidence takes a nosedive later on in life, you want to guess?
No, I don't want to guess.
Okay.
I want you to tell me.
So confidence takes a nosedive when you have kids. So when you have kids, sorry, I thought I'd turn this thing up. So when you have kids, what happens is that now you're responsible for this other human, this little like crying, pooping, little, bag of emotions at all times. And what happens is as this child, and this is still happening, you're hearing this for the first time.
I am.
Yeah, because I don't think you talk to too many parents about this.
I mean, I work with a lot of parents, but I've never had that specific.
Confidence goes down because when you have to self-reflect on your own abilities and achievements, you can kind of regulate that. And as time goes by, you become more confident in your abilities as those abilities pertain to your performance in life.
Okay.
However,
Okay.
what happens is when you have small children, like we have small children, and those children experience a miss. Something happens, they do something wrong, they make an error, which all humans at the early stages of life and later stages of life do.
Always.
But people make more errors when they're young. Like
Right.
children make more errors on a daily basis than I think adults,
For sure.
because they're still learning how to do things. So as a parent, your confidence goes down because when you see your child make a mistake, you assume it is a direct reflection of the work and the effort that you put into your child. You start thinking to yourself, maybe I should have spent more time with them. Maybe I should have, signed them up for that
that's
lesson
fair.
or this or
That's
that, or maybe I did something wrong. Maybe I said something to my child that I said something wrong and they took a wrong. Anyways,
It
so
would be impossible not to think that. But for using the same example, would that mean that there's room for the confidence to go up as kids get older because they're also
Yes.
showing up more as, the person you have taught them to be?
yes, so the confidence
Okay.
starts going up.
Okay,
So hold on.
I get
The
that.
confidence starts going up. So kids can go different ways, right?
Sure, yeah.
Listen, even in the same family, you can have siblings,
course.
one is like this overachiever and the other one is kind of like, never
the
kind of
clouds like me.
fails to launch, let's say, right?
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so as a parent, you're like, oh shit,
Sure.
I did that right, but this
Yeah.
guy, like, or girl, whatever. But no, it's like, it's a real thing.
It
And I
is.
think, so I'll give you an example. I have a good friend of mine. His son goes to like a very fancy Ivy League school.
Mhm.
He's 19 years old and he is beaming when it comes to his son. And, that then brings the confidence up
For sure.
because you're affirmed as a parent. Like, I did it right.
Sure. Yeah.
You're acknowledged.
Yeah.
I did it right. My kid's doing good. Anyways, that's a
Well,
whole other
Yeah, I think there's a whole space for confidence within
parenting.
parents, especially as the world's shifted so much since
Yeah.
our time. So
You know what? I bet that there's like a thought leader out there that teaches parents to be more confident.
absolutely,
We'll see.
there needs to be.
I agree. It's not a bad little niche. to
Still,
fill.
all the things we know and talked about can still help those parents too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. Okay, so I want to go back to your story. So you got into coaching.
Yep.
What are it says you're a 3 times. What's the word? It's 3 times like
I'm certified.
3 times certified. So what are these certifications?
It's funny you ask because at first I said, how am I going to differentiate myself? Especially 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It went from no one really hearing about coaching to it now being the, $1 trillion biz economy that it is, which is interesting. So everyone was starting to become a coach. And I thought, there was a moment there where I thought, ooh, this competition might be a lot for me. But I just sat with myself and said, okay, how do I use this in a good way? And I said, how can I differentiate myself from everybody else? So then I got more accreditations. So I have one-on-one coaching with IPEC. I did group coaching at George Brown, and I did cognitive behavioral coaching at George Brown as well. I wanted to be able to kind of use the anchor of my psychology background,
Yeah.
but have as many tools as possible to, one, not only help myself and continue to grow and learn within who I am, but then to be able to better serve my clients.
I think it's amazing that you actually have these credentials, meaning that most coaches that I know of, they actually don't have any credentials. They just call themselves a coach. But you actually have academic credentials.
Totally.
Yeah.
And, I've always felt a little bit yay or nay on that because I do believe it's tricky for you to just say that you're a coach and have no certifications can still be a gray area because it's not regulated as much as some of the other industries, right? If someone pretended to be a lawyer or a doctor, they'd go to jail. But anyone can just be like, I'm a coach now. And
But it's up to the, would you say it, the coachee or the student,
Yeah.
I guess, to decide if that person's credible. So I'll give you,
to an extent, because here's the thing, coaching is not necessarily about advice. An actual certified coach, our job is to ask questions. I don't actually give advice. My job is to ask the right questions to help that person feel empowered within themselves to answer the question, which is what they need. It's kind of like if you tell a kid to do it, they might not do it. But if they tell themselves to do it, they'll do it. Same with adults. So the only thing that I don't like about that is that could potentially be harmful. Imagine a coach who has 0 certifications and just lived experience And now they're working with a client who's experiencing severe mental health
No, of course.
problems.
Well, I think it depends what they're a coach of, right?
Right. So that's why I'm like, it's a gray area because you never know. So I'm a big believer in making sure you trust these people.
Yeah.
And I think there's a room for anyone to help anyone.
Yeah.
But I still think it makes more sense to go with a certified life coach.
Oh, like
coaching and life coaching are also different. Coaching is more like, sports coach or helping you advice.
Yeah.
Whereas life coaching, and there's a clear method and path.
There is.
Yeah.
I think when I think of, like, for me, coaching is shortly going to mean, like, I kind of do it informally. Like, I coach content creators.
Yeah. That's like mentoring.
Yes, sure. You can call it a mentor. Yeah. But there's no certification for what I do.
No.
Right. My certification is that I was with Valeria on day one and we did it together. So I was kind of.
You have a business background and you built this from the ground up.
Sure.
So I personally have learned so much from you. So I definitely would call you a coach / mentor.
Fair. Okay. Give me 1 second here. Let me see. I got some more stuff here. Okay. So you got into this field. Tell me how do you get into something like this? So, for people who are developing themselves, there's obviously the academic side.
Sure.
What are the next steps for people?
Great question.
They develop, like, a person can develop certain expertise, I guess.
Yeah.
And then they can kind of formalize that expertise. Because, again, to your point, so many people are doing this. I see so many people out there that are experts and coaches in so many things. And, like, I take it with a grain of salt because they're monetizing it in a very direct way.
Yep. Yeah. I think that a lot of people have this notion that if you become a coach, they'll just come. Right? Like, if you just start, everything will happen. And for a lot of the coaching programs or just anyone, they don't necessarily teach you the business side.
Right.
You're kind of on your own there. So for me, it was really tapping into my network and talking about it at any chance I got. I wanted everybody who ever met me, who ever knew me, to know what I'm up to now because they saw that shift and evolving from events to coaching. So everyone who I knew in the event space were my first clients because they trusted me. Then from there, I continued to evolve and building relationships. Oh, you work at this company now? Here's what I'm up to. Could I come do a lunch and learn? So for me, it was number one was building my relationships and putting myself out there, which still to this day has allowed me to run my business completely off of referrals.
Really? Well, it's not completely off of referrals.
I would say 9. Well,
no, but I beg to differ because you've got a sizable online audience because you put out content.
True, but I don't have like a marketing plan. There's no cold calling.
But Instagram has its own marketing plan. I'm biased because I'm in the space.
But you know what I mean in terms of the traditional ways. Like I didn't have a business plan or a marketing team or any of those things. I really just started sharing about what I was doing and making sure that I was going into those companies because I shifted from just one-on-one coaching to workshops and workshops to keynotes. Now my keynotes are I'm just as busy with keynotes as I am with coaching. So I think that's the other thing that's tricky too is coaching is not fully that sustainable. There's only so much capacity a person can have. If you're only a one-person practice, there's only so many sessions you can have per day. And at some point, there's only so much you can charge per session.
But you could create an academy.
Totally.
Like I'm creating,
exactly.
Right? You could create an academy.
That's like next step, but I knew that I wanted to have multiple streams of income. So for me, my path has been very different compared to a lot of other people. So I think getting started is talking about what you're doing and tapping into your network.
Yeah. I think I really love the way you've defined confidence and the fact that confidence is this kind of foundation to all other things. Do you have a book in the works? I know you get asked this. I'm assuming you get asked this.
I've got some ideas.
Yeah.
I haven't necessarily dedicated time to work on it just yet.
Yeah.
And I probably will. Like 2024 is my year to really focus on some of those projects that I had to put on the back burner.
Yeah.
And I really attribute a lot of that to your support and your advice. You've always been someone who reminded me to keep going, to keep doing, and to keep like taking risks, but dreaming big.
Yeah, sure.
I think I'm a dreamer in general, but I haven't had a role model who's been where I'm trying to go. So being able to have those honest conversations with you, like you sit with me for 4 hours and I download everything you say to me and I go tell my team and we try to work on it. I've never really had that. So
you know what you could do?
Yeah.
Since like you and I are friends, you could just call me and ask me to attend a meeting with your team.
Oh.
Why wouldn't you do that? No, but why wouldn't you do that? No, but it's funny. So you know what?
I'm going to.
So I'm gonna.
We heard it here too.
Yeah, I'm gonna potentially offend an entire nation right now. Okay. But no, but I want to tell you something.
Okay.
So you and I are both Canadian.
Yes.
I just happen to be a Canadian who's left Canada
Correct.
and is now living here in the United States. The ask that I just described is something that, as a Canadian, when I was like an actual Canadian in Canada, I, like you, would have issue with asking that, because I feel like Canada is like a culture of,
gatekeeping.
we don't want to be, we want to be nice. We don't want to ask. Whereas in America, I've got people calling me up and saying, hey, listen, can you do like a 3-hour talk? I need you to come in and talk to my company. And yeah, we're not going to give you anything. Can you do me a favor? Right. So I'm giving you an extreme example. That actually hasn't happened, but something to those, to that effect. And I find that that's a big cultural difference, I think, between Canada and the United States.
And I think that is why when I travel, I feel that much more ambition.
Absolutely.
There's just that energy that you feel a little bit differently than I feel when I'm home in Toronto.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But that's an offer. That's a real offer. So if you want me to sit with your team,
I would love that. You
know what? I mean, if they're all ever in Miami, we could literally sit, because this room is not always a podcast studio. Sometimes it's my living room.
But I will absolutely. I mean, I already get it one-on-one, but I would love.
We can do Zoom.
Team. That would be.
We can do Zoom. So what's next? Where are you heading with all this?
Great question. 2024 is my big year for projects and really taking my keynotes to the next level. I'm really focusing on perfecting and being the best public speaker. I want to be top 40 under 40.
I love it. What's the subject? What's the most common subject matter that you're asked to speak about in your keynotes?
Imposter syndrome.
Stop, really?
Yep. I would say that's number one. Number two is a lot of companies reached out to me about burnout.
Really?
And then I said, that feels a little reactive. Wouldn't you rather your team be supported on how to support themselves before they get there? And they said, oh, that sounds great. So I created a whole workshop on how stress can empower you rather than hinder you.
Yeah.
Which I love because it helps me use my psychology background. And then number three is still confidence. Confidence is the talk I did for, my first 7 years. Like a comedian, you've got to do that skit over and over and over again, and then you hit the big audiences. So I really honed in on that and then created other talks. So now I have like 6. And I love that I can also customize. I love the challenge of saying, hey, can you do a workshop or a keynote on this topic? I love research. That's what I always loved about school. I never loved the exams, etc., but I loved learning.
Yeah.
So then I get to create them. So a few cool projects, hopefully a podcast we're working on as well.
I've been nagging you about this.
No, Uncle G.
It's just silly for you not.
You know what? I have a new team member starting next week.
And I have to interrupt you. I apologize. I have to interrupt you because this is the first time you and I have ever done anything like even kind of like business-like, even though this is a very casual conversation. But you're very good at this. Thank you. I didn't really have a preconceived notion because I knew you're like look, I knew you were I know you're an excellent speaker because I hired you 5 years ago to help Valeria, speak in public. So I knew, but you're good at this, and I really want to give you that feedback here, and it's going to go out to the world to hear that. Yes, and you are very good at this, and you should be hosting this, not this particular episode, but you should be hosting in general, and you have to have your own podcast.
Right.
You have to have your own podcast, and I would love to see a niche of like a confidence niche where you're interviewing both people who are confident, and who are, and people who are not.
I love it.
I think it'd be really good.
So it's in the works. I promise.
I'm going to take you up on it.
I know you are.
You better do it.
I promise.
You better do it.
I know you are, but I appreciate the push because we all need that.
I think when you do this, I'm not even saying if, because I'm not playing with you anymore, because I've told you this already a few times.
Fair.
But when you do this, you're gonna see magic. You really are. You really are.
I know.
You really are.
I know.
Even my podcast, I've only been doing this 8 months, and I don't have I'm just starting out. I have a small audience and stuff, but I first of all, the personal fulfillment I'm getting from having conversations like this is awesome.
Yeah.
And it's not really monetizing in a meaningful way right now. I think I made on YouTube like $75 in the last month.
But you're not doing it for For that'll come slower, right? I think we all know podcasts is slower.
If and when it monetizes, I'll be really happy. Once the scale goes up. But the benefits that I get in terms of just the people that I'm meeting, because bringing in guests and having the opportunity to sit down, because I'm going to tell you something, you and I are friends, but I would have never have gone this deep with you if we were just like, we talk about stuff.
Pretty deep. Most of our hangouts are 4 hours, but we always end up getting into business.
Yeah,
and that's why.
We do.
Because we both like to learn, and I think we're similar in those ways. Yeah.
Anyways, I'm really excited for you to do this.
Thank you.
I want to make sure I phrase this correctly.
Yep.
I want to understand how, like in a nutshell, to kind of wrap things up, because I want to leave the people with something that they can actually use.
Yep.
Okay. How do you become more confident? And I want to provide a little bit more context, because there are people out there that I personally know who are super fit, rich, and they're a mess.
Yeah.
They have everything going for them. They have, on the surface, a beautiful life, and they're not confident. Because there are times when I can see it. More often than not, people, I don't know why, but people confide in me.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact that they're not. And I guess, how is it that, and those are people who like on the surface really have everything.
Yeah.
How do people find their confidence? Just give me something I can leave these good people with.
I got you. Everybody's different. So let's preface this with that, because I don't think there's a one size for all, but I do think all of the things I'm about to share could help someone start to rebuild it. So aside from the 4 questions we shared earlier, number 1 is going to be language, how you speak to yourself. Your subconscious can't tell the difference between if you're joking or not. So you might be fit and have all these accolades and etc. But if you speak to yourself negatively, I'm stupid, I'm ugly, etc., that's what's going on through your head and your demeanor and your aura and your energy all the time. So I would say start with language. And even on the extra side in terms of language, really adding in positive language. I know it can sound cliche, but affirmations. Saying those words to yourself and anything that resonates for you. For me, my favorite go-tos are, I love you, you're more than enough, and I honor you. And when I feel good and I know that I'm doing those things, I'm like, yes. And on the days where I'm not, I cry. Because you can feel that you're out of alignment even in those words. So language number 1, I don't think most humans have heard or said to themselves, I love you. We think we love ourselves, we say it to our friends and family, but when's the last time you actually said, I love you to yourself with your name? I love you, Raia. The moment you say that, you're like, anytime I've worked with a client and I've asked them to do that, whether in their head or out loud, they immediately start crying. From the billionaire CEOs to the 20-year-old kid. So, language. Number 2, joy, hobbies. The things that you do just for you, it doesn't matter the outcome or what anyone else thinks.
Purpose?
Add it in. Because you don't have that purpose just in your career. You can have purpose in every single thing you do. Right now, me and you are in purpose because we showed up here with that intention. Right? The purpose isn't just your life's path, right? It's you can create it in anything. So hobbies, joy, create that energy. For me, it's swimming because I love that. And then number 3, which people don't typically expect. And again, this is going to take work and practice, but I know for a fact that these 3 things can help someone feel more confident within themselves. The third one is boundaries. And the reason why boundaries are there, because when you actually start to honor your boundaries, because it's really easy to say, this is my boundary, and then you don't actually honor it. Imagine I said to you, hey, my boundary is to not talk about this, and we talked about it. Not ideal. But imagine I said, I don't want to talk about this, and you said, let's talk about it, and I said, actually, remember I said that?
Right.
Ooh, now all of a sudden I'm feeling self-trust.
But that's a scary one, because you don't want to say no to people. Like, you don't want to make somebody else feel uncomfortable.
No, but we would have talked about it in advance, or I would have said, hey, really excited for the podcast. Just wanted to let you know this topic I'm not comfortable with, right? Communication is key, but when you honor your boundaries, you build self-trust, which then naturally builds confidence. So those are my 3 things that I think are accessible to just about anybody to slowly start implementing into your day-to-day life.
I like to honor your boundaries.
Such a game changer.
Yeah.
You don't realize it, but it has, because when you trust yourself, then you're decisive. Your decisions, how you show up is different.
For me, it's like, for me, like a lot of that is time and saying no to people, like when they need my time.
Say no.
But I say yes a lot of the times.
You do.
Like I even today I have some phone calls that, like,
For sure you do. I know
Yeah.
you do. You always do.
Yeah.
I love that about you.
Well,
But you could probably say no a little.
I should probably say no a little bit
A little
more.
bit.
A little bit, yeah.
But yes.
Raia, thank you. I really appreciate you doing this. This was a long time in the works.
Big time.
Well,
Thank you.
I mean, I had to have started a podcast
Yeah.
to have a podcast to speak with you.
That's true too.
And you should start a podcast too.
On it.
I know. I'm waiting.
But it gave me a great chance to be in Miami, so thank you.
Well, look, I really appreciate it. So, okay, and I also wanted to say that now
Mhm.
we are going into the sauna and the cold plunge.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's going to be a whole other thing because we've been talking about doing that
Obsessed.
for a while.
We like a lot of the same things. It's
Yeah.
a shock.
Yeah. Well, you saw the setup.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay,
Let's do this.
I got you. Raia, thank you.
Lots of love. Thank you.